Today we're going to discuss the cosine law. The cosine law is needed when the sine law doesn't work. So, for example, if I look at this very first triangle, I'm given three sides. I'm given side, 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 a 5, an 8, a 10. So, for example, if I wanted to find an angle, any particular angle, and try to use the sine law, I would say, okay, well, the sine of A divided by its opposite side equals the sine of another angle, which you need to know to be able to find angle A. Well, I don't know another angle, so there'd be two unknowns. So when you're given side, 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 all three sides and no angles, the sine law doesn't work. We'll need the cosine law. The other one is when I'm given side, angle, side. So the angle is now contained between my two sides. If I tried to use the sine law, I would say, okay, well, the sine of 130 divided by its opposite side equals the sine of, well, I don't know another angle to be able to divide by its opposite side, either 12 or 14. That again would leave me with two unknowns, and that would make it impossible to solve. So those are the only two times I'd use the cosine law, so let's learn what the cosine law is all about. The cosine law looks complicated, but I'm going to try and break it down for you and show you that it's not very complicated. The cosine law, again, we discussed when you know all three sides and no angles, or you know side, angle, side, and that's all you're given, then you must use the cosine law. The cosine law says c squared, little c is the side opposite angle c, c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab multiplied by the cos of c. Now, don't get hung up on the variables. Don't think little c always has to go here, little a always has to go here, etc. Because if I was trying to find little a, the side opposite side angle a, it gets quite confusing if you get stuck on the variables. So in other words, let's just look at the conceptual part of this. This little c will always represent the side opposite your known angle. So this, if you're given side or angle c, this side will always be on its own on this side of the equal sign. If you're given angle c, then this angle will always be the angle you produce. So whatever angle you put into there, the side opposite has to go there. That makes these two sides the adjacent sides to the angle you're given. Okay, and that's the same there, A and B. So the A and B are next to the side you're given, or the angle you're given, and this side is always opposite the angle you're given. So don't get hooked into just plugging things into the variables. Plug them conceptually into the positions they belong to. Okay? If you're interested in where this formula comes from, I have derived it over here, and I will put that in my notes section, and you can study that and try to figure that out. It's pretty much taking a look at two right triangles, splitting the base of that right triangle into x and b minus x, or c minus x, whichever side that is, and then working independently, etc. I'll let you study that if you want to come up with where that comes from. We just need to know how to use it appropriately. So let's practice. And I'll show you how to. So let's rewrite the formula. So we have c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. A reminder, the angle and the side are opposite each other. For example, we want to find angle A here, not angle C. We want to find angle A. We want to find this angle. So angle A goes in here, the variable A. The side opposite angle A is 14. So 14 becomes my little c, even though it's little a. This is where it gets confusing. So I don't even look at the variables. I just conceptually say, okay, so if I'm plugging in a for cos c, then I'm plugging in the side opposite for c. So I'm going to write 14 squared equals, and then my 7 and 16 are my a's and my b's. So I'm going to have 7 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 7 times 16 cos A. And so now I've plugged everything in, and my only unknown is my angle. So now I'm going to have to use my algebra skills to solve this. What I typically do is I first take my calculator and I go 14 squared minus 7 squared minus 16 squared. I have to move those two to the other side first. Since this is all multiplication, it's one big term, it all stays together. So 14 squared minus 7 squared minus 16 squared becomes negative 109, which equals, and there's a negative sign there, be careful, negative, and instead of rewriting all that out, I go 2 times 7 times 16. I go negative 224 cos A. So I just multiplied those together, but don't forget that negative sign right there tags along. So now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 224, making sure, write it out this time, to isolate the cos A. So the cos A is going to be 109 divided by 224, which gives you a positive because negative divided by negative. And I don't even really have to write this out. I'm going to write it out for you. We now know it's a ratio, and so now I'm going to take the cos inverse. And I'm going to get 60, let's round off to the nearest degree, 61 degrees equals angle A. So, plug in the appropriate sides, solve for your angle. Again, this side is opposite the angle you're trying to find. The other two sides are adjacent to the angle you're trying to find. All right, let's try another one. This time we're going to have to try draw it out because I didn't give you the diagram. So we know that AB is 4.8, AC, so I'll put a C there. It doesn't even have to be drawn to scale. We just throw it in, what we think it looks like. And BC is 3.7, and we want to find the smallest angle, and again, the smallest angle is always opposite the smallest side. So in this case, we're finding angle A right here because it is the opposite the smallest side. So, just like before, we have to make sure we use the side opposite the angle we're trying to find as the one on its own. So I'm going to write 3.7 squared equals 4.8 squared plus 5.2 squared minus 2 multiplied by those two sides adjacent cos angle A. We're again solving for angle A, so on my calculator I'm going to go 3.7 squared minus 4.8 squared minus 5.2 squared. We get negative 36.39, which equals, and again I'm going to multiply those together, 2 times 4.8 times 5.2. And again, watch that negative. If you forget to put that negative, I'll show you what's going to happen. If you forget to put that negative, you're going to get a negative divided by a positive later, and you're going to get the cos being negative. Remember, where is cos negative? Cos is negative here and here. You're going to get an angle, if you're only going from 0 to 180, you're going to get an angle when cos is negative that is between 90 and 180. So if you're getting a positive ratio, then your cos is going to be acute. So I divide those two, and I get approximately, I keep it in my calculator to be more accurate because then I just go cos inverse of the answer, and I get approximately 43 degrees is equal to angle A. So if you're given three sides and no angles, this is how you would solve for the missing angle. Now, the last option could be I give you side, angle, side. If you're given side, angle, side, then you must always solve for the side opposite the angle you're given. That's the only option. So this becomes your little c, and this becomes your angle opposite it, and these are your two adjacent sides. So I'd write my formula out like this. Remember, it's c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c, right? So in this case, my c squared is my x squared. My A and B are 7.6 and 13.4. Minus 2, 7.6, 13.4, cos, and this time I know my angle. I know my angle is 103 degrees. So now I'm just finding x. There's no variable here. So now you just have to figure out on your calculator how can you type that all in and keep it as accurate as possible. So what I like to do is I like to type into my calculator 7.6 squared plus 13.4 squared minus bracket 2 times 7.6 times 13.4 multiplied by cos 103, close bracket, and all of that comes out to 283.14 approximately. That's what x squared equals, so now I need to take the square root of that answer, and x is equal to 16.8. So now I know x is 16.8. So 2 times you'd ever only use your cosine law, side angle side, find the opposite side, or given all 3 angles, you need to find one of the missing angles. If I wanted to find anything else now, for example, if I now wanted to solve for angle C, I wouldn't use the cosine law, because now I have enough information I can use the sine law. I would go, oh, the sine of angle C divided by 7.6 equals the sine of angle B, which is 103, divided by the sine, 16.8. And then you can find that. Okay, so cosine law is a little bit longer. Don't need to use it as often, but there's 2 particular times you will have to use the cosine law. There's no ambiguous case for the cosine law, so that makes it much easier as well.